Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Global Gaze, where we talk art, books, and film from an international perspective. I'm your host, Dr. SarahJilani. I'm an academic, a culture critic, and a lifelong third culture kid. Today, I have in mind those who are looking to expand their bookshelves beyond Europe and North America, but may not know where to begin with South Asian literatures. So in this video, I'm going to recommend 5 authors from across the breadth of South Asian countries who have written in English novels that are completely accessible and awe-inspiring. But before we begin, a necessary and important note. The South Asian subcontinent has one of the richest literary histories in the world. There, for thousands of years, stories, plays, epics, and poems have been written in hundreds of languages. These include, but are not limited to Hindi, Urdu, Bangla, Tamil, Sinhala, Persian, and Punjabi. These literary traditions long predate the arrival of English with British colonial rule. But today's video focuses on South Asian literatures in English, not because it's more important than this wonderful and rich tapestry of literary history, but because it has followed a particular historical path which is quite recent. It's been shaped by colonial education, independence movements, migration, and global publishing. What we're tracing today is one strand within a much larger literary landscape. So if you're wondering where to begin with South Asian literature as an English language reader yourself, here are some authors to get you started. We begin in India in the mid-20th century. Now, R.K. Narayan may not be the most politically incendiary writer in this list, but his work is foundational. He proved that Indian everyday life could be written in English naturally and convincingly. In novels like The Guide, published in 1958, Narayan writes about teachers, shopkeepers, tour guides, and small-town dreamers. His fictional town of Malgudi feels ordinary, lived in, and believable. There are no sweeping historical speeches. Instead, we see personal ambition, love, weakness, regret, and pride. What makes Narayan important is tone. His English is calm, precise, gently ironic. It doesn't try to imitate any particular British writers, but nor does it announce itself as deliberately experimental. He simply tells Indian stories with confidence. If you begin with Narayan's novels, you begin with a writer that made English feel at home in India. Then in 1981, South Asian literature in English explodes into the global scene with Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. Rushdie's novel is bold, playful, chaotic, and full of energy. The story begins at the exact moment India gains independence, and the life of one child becomes tied to the life of the nation itself. Rushdie's writing is very different from Narayan's. It's crowded with jokes, irony, surrealist elements. History is not represented as neat and tidy. Everyday life turns extraordinary. Rushdie's success and controversy made South Asian literature in English visible around the world. Midnight's Children won the Booker Prize and became internationally famous. Whatever you may think of Rushdie and the controversies surrounding him, it is undeniable that he put South Asian literature on the global map. After this, the South Asian novel in English was no longer seen as marginal. It was instead quite central to global literary conversations. Now, 1947 marked a huge turning point for the subcontinent, and no one captures the traumas and hopes of this period like Bapsi Sidhwa. Her novel Ice Candy Man, published in 1988, later also republished under the title Cracking India, tells a story of partition through the eyes of a young Parsi girl growing up in Lahore. This choice of narrator is important. The Parsi community is a minority, neither Hindu nor Muslim. which allows Sidhwa to observe the growing violence from a slightly outside position. As friendships fall apart and communities turn on each other, this novel focuses especially on women and women's bodies as they become a contested terrain of politics and religion. The power in this story comes from watching a child slowly understand what's happening around her. Next, we move to Sri Lanka at the end of the 20th century. Michael Ondaatje's Anil's Ghost, published in 2000, is set during the Sri Lankan Civil War. The novel follows a forensic scientist who returns to Sri Lanka to investigate police killings. This is a quieter, more fragmented book. The story moves between different characters and different moments in time. There are gaps, silences, and unanswered questions, much like in real life during periods of civil violence. Ondaatje writes from a diasporic position, so he left Sri Lanka when he was young. But he later returned, and that momentary distance shapes the novel. With Ondaatje, South Asian literature in English begins to focus less on the moment of independence and more on the nation-building struggles that followed. Civil war, political repression, and the long shadow of unresolved colonial legacies. Finally, we arrive in Bangladesh and into the 21st century. Tahmima Anam's A Golden Age, published in 2007, tells the story of the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971. But again, the focus is not on generals or political leaders. Instead, the novel focuses on the perspective of a widowed mother whose children become involved in the Bangladeshi war. The war unfolds through her eyes, through domestic life, family meals, private conversations, letters, and quiet acts of courage at a time of violence. Bangladesh's war for independence is sometimes less discussed and remembered internationally than the partition of the subcontinent into India and Pakistan. Anam brings it into focus and explores how national struggle reshapes families at a very intimate level. And by this point in our timeline, South Asian writers in English are not simply announcing their presence. They're revisiting the past, asking difficult questions about how nations were formed, and exploring how history continues to shape the present. So from Narayan to Anam, we can trace quite an interesting movement, from small-town realism to bold history-shaping novels, from intimate accounts of partition to intimate family drama set during post-independence Civil War periods. And then back again in many ways to everyday life, but this time looking at national beginnings with fresh eyes. Now, just to return to my disclaimer at the beginning, this list is by no means complete, but I think these 5 offer a great place to begin, a structured and chronological journey over 70 years of English language writing about and often set in India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. If you start here, you begin to see how English became one of the languages through which the subcontinent tells its own stories. Stories of hope, rupture, violence, survival, and reinvention. And from there, the field opens up in every direction, and we have incredible contemporary and young South Asian writers in English coming up now as well. That's it from me for today. I hope this gives you a little bit of a to-read list if this is something that you want to get into in your spare time. 1 or 2 novels by some of the authors mentioned here also have very good film adaptations as well. Let me know in the comments who your favorite South Asian writer in English is. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notifications on button so that you'll see any of my new videos come up directly on your main YouTube feed. Thanks so much for listening, and keep your gaze global.